Welcome to a special edition of Crawford County Outdoors. I'm Dwayne Kohler, and we are at the French Creek Farm in Utica today, and we are going to talk about deer hunting. One of my favorite things is to get out hunting, and I would encourage folks to do that. We're going to talk to an expert here, Bryan, who knows a whole lot about deer hunting. So looking forward to that, and we're going to have a great recipe from Chef Lisa, so stay tuned. Well, joining us now, Bryan from the French Creek Farm. Ken, thank you very much. I appreciate you having me along. I think I've been coming on deer hunts with you guys for something like 10 years now, and I was trying to count. I think I've got 7 deer. So it's not like it's not like an automatic thing like grocery shopping, like you're going to get one every time. But if you get out there and you hunt and you really work at it in different ways, then you have a good chance to get some venison in your freezer. So I want to talk to you about 2 different things about deer hunting. First one, how do I figure out a good place to set up my stand? How do I set up, what's the right kind of stand to set up, and that kind of thing? And then like scent control and all that kind of stuff. So what do you think about hunting from a stand? Hi, pup.
Hunting to me, each person has their style or how they like to hunt. Hunting to me is almost a word like it's generic. I'm a deer hunter, but okay, what kind of deer hunter are you? Or what's your style? What do you prefer of deer hunting? There's a lot of guys that's all they want to do is sit. They get in their stands and they put a lot of time into where to put their stands. So I respect that. And then there's others that want to still hunt. They're more like myself that are a little more ADD, and they're in that stand 10 minutes and then they look and say, oh, the grass is a little greener over here. I want to slip out of here and I want to, go in that direction, so that the stands really don't work for them. And then the third element or third group of deer hunters that don't want to stand or they just want to drive all day. It's just that's how they like to hunt. That's how they've been successful. But stands, you just mentioned a few things. One, you have to consider where your wind's consistently coming from. If you're in this area, it primarily comes out of the northwest, or it's coming over from that direction. So you want to, if you're going to be hunting over a field or in an area where you think they're feeding or bedding or wherever your best opportunity.
You want the wind blowing across the field, and then you being downwind.
Yep. Yeah. So the wind always plays a big element, and you talk about scent control. I'm a believer in it, in controlling your scent, but I believe sometimes the cigar works just as well as your different sprays and things of that nature. It's about keeping the human scent down, a human odor down. But I do believe, we all know, it's a scientific fact. They live through that nose, that's what's busted us a million times over. That's what's prevented us from getting that great buck or a good shot on a doe.
In archery season, you have to get yourself closer to the deer. Mm-hmm. So you probably have to focus on that. This is a question. You have to focus on that more in archery season than maybe in rifle season?
No doubt. Archery, it's a whole other element. And that's what I love about hunting. There's so many different aspects to it. Archery to me is that time when I just want that tranquility. I want to go out and relax, and it's me finding that perfect spot to be able to outwit that deer. Just to really, you get one with the woods. You slow yourself down, and you look for that perfect play on hopefully on a great animal. But and so you have to have the best of everything. You got to make sure you're watching your scent. You got to make sure that you're playing the wind properly. You want to find them high traffic areas. Everyone talks about those pinch points. Even in larger wooded areas. You look at, there's pinch points. There's areas where the deer consistently like to flow or come into. That's what you look for.
Now I have, in archery season, I have a spot, and there's a row of oak trees like this and a row of oak trees like this, and then I call it a funnel, and the deer come between the funnel. So I set up shop there, and in fact I kind of set my stand up kind of like right halfway between the two lines of oak trees, and another spot that I go, there's apple trees, and sometimes when the apple trees are a little bit later dropping their fruit on the ground, then that's a place that I go early in archery season. This year it seemed like the apples came down and were all gone by the start of archery season. So I went to the oak spot, and the traffic was good there, and when the rut came along, the bucks started following the does around. The does were hanging around because there were food for them, and the bucks came around. So it's like I was thrilled to get my first archery buck this year, and I think it was because of the funnel. And like you said, I set my stand up. The wind comes from the west for most of the time, northwest, out of the west. So I set my stand up to leave the area closest to where I could see the traffic where they were going. So I would be to the east of that, so the wind wasn't blowing across me. And I put my hunting clothes in a bin, and a friend suggested one time you get these little wafers that have scent. So I have an acorn scent. So it's like, okay, we're in the acorn field, so I put my acorn scent, and they never looked at me. They never noticed me or whatever. So I was 30 or 40 yards away or whatever. But it's like, okay, that's working. So anyways, I was thrilled to get my first ever archery buck.
Congrats to you. That's awesome.
Had lots of does with that, but that was a blast. So I think folks will get a kick out of seeing that. So I really wanted you to sort of explain the deer drive, because I think a lot of folks really kind of skip that part of deer hunting, and I think that's a huge successful part of deer hunting that you need to jump in on.
It is. I mean, it's funny. You talk about deer hunting again, all the different elements of it, but I like to drive at certain times of year, especially when you start to get that second week into rifle season, because again, the deer get pressured. And today,
they're going to go hide, right?
Right, and they're going to go hide.
Yeah.
Okay, and then here's the other element a lot of people don't think about these days is the fact that, okay, on our property, we still have 15 acres of standing corn. We have two other properties within a mile radius of us that have 15 to 20 to 30 acres of standing corn. So, 20 years ago, 25 years ago, that just was non-existent. They didn't have the equipment for that. There was a different idea on how they managed corn. So that corn would have been gone already. So that's a huge resource. It's available to deers all the way into, look late December. So that changes everything on how we need to hunt. So those deer could basically eat all night, and then if there's a little bit of pressure on, all they need is they can bed in like a rabbit all day. So they need a little of encouragement. So, the drives, I think, are an effective way of doing that. And when you talk about drives, there's a lot of different ways, on how we drive. I mean, sometimes we're aggressive, where we'll have, a group lined up on one side and the other group will get ready, and we make a lot of noise, and we zigzag back and forth, and we're banging our branches, and we're trying to do whatever we can to get those deer up and running. And we do that primarily where the areas are really thick, or you're on a real steep embankment, where the advantage really is with the animal, because it's impossible to hit all them little pockets where the deer might be. So you make a lot of noise, you make yourself seem bigger. And then there's other times where it's the complete opposite, where we'll do those posters and pushers, but the pushers are going to be extremely quiet. They're going to just go through real slow because we have a high visibility rate, but so the deer, we can pick up on them sooner, so it gives the opportunity for the pushers to also get a nice shot off on a deer. But driving, to me today, it's an important part of it. It's not the only part of it, but it's an important part of being successful. And then finally, I think that the best kept secret, I don't know how you want to say it, but is being willing to hunt in areas where most people don't want to hunt. That's getting into heavy rocks, heavy hillsides, places where people don't want to go. And we're willing to do that.
One of the places where you have drives here, we're in the French Creek area, and the hills are very steep, and kind of driving across the hill. And that's tricky, as you just said. It's tricky kind of going across, because you're stepping over trees down, and you're stepping on rocks and all that kind of stuff. And but that gets the deer moving. I think the first drive I jumped in with you guys on this year, I'd already had my buck, so it was still buck season, and so I was a designated driver since I didn't have my buck tag available. And we were coming along the side of the hillside. That's called the pine tree knoll.
Correct.
That's what you call that
one of our names. Yep.
here goes a deer running down the hill, and I yelled, "Hey, there goes one, coming down the hill!" And I couldn't tell if it was a buck or not because the sun was right behind, and I was kind of like a silhouette, I could see it was a large deer.
Right.
And 30 seconds went by, I didn't hear a shot, and the next driver up to me yelled down and said, "Was that a buck?" And I said, "I'm not sure." Boom! The shot went off, and I started laughing. I said, "Yeah, I'm going to say yeah, that was a buck," and that was great. It's maybe 90% of the deer that you see are does, or baby bucks, and then when you actually get a buck on a drive like that, that was awesome. That was a wonderful way to start.
In our last drive this year, our last big drive this year, we shot a young boy that was hunting with us and who has a lot of years in, shot a beautiful non-typical 8-point. The last drive we put in on Saturday. So, but again, it's it's like you just mentioned, it's a commitment as a team, though, and the camaraderie behind it. And that's the other element that I love, again, because you can go archery hunting, which, that gives you that, peace of mind, and it's a whole other sport, in itself. And then there's deer hunting, there's rifle hunting, but when you're putting on drives and you're working with a group, especially you're familiar with, it can become very efficient. And then again, like you said, you had your buck already. There's other people who were tagged out with those, but guess what? They're still in the game. They're still helping others put meat on a table for the family. So I love the camaraderie to it. I love when you're with a really good group that understands the terrain, that's willing to commit, to sacrifice the banged up knees, the scratches, the jaggers. It's multi-flora roads, but we call it multi-flora roads. I mean, the stuff that we're willing to do in order to help others. That's what I love about it. It's
I'm
a great
not
thing.
a hater, but I do hate the multi-flora.
Oh yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things out there that you go.
You gotta get, almost get down on your knees to get through that stuff, because it all kind of curls, and then little hooks on there, they just grab your.
That's right.
Grab
and
your
you and I aren't spring chickens anymore.
I like getting out there. I mean, it's like all year long I make it a point to exercise to keep in shape, so I can be out deer hunting, and so I can be out pheasant hunting. I mean, hunting season is something I really enjoy, and wouldn't pass that in a minute. So I was a driver again later in the season, the group was driving kind of like all in a straight line, and so they told me, now you go on the very end, and sometimes the deer shoot out to the side, so you get 60, 70 yards in front of us, and then just keep in front of us. Sure enough, one came shooting out on my side, and I was able to get that one, and that was a blast. It wasn't my turn to be a stander; it was my turn to be a driver, and I got one. I don't think I ever had that happen before, but that was awesome. So
again, that's knowledge. If you've been putting on drives in similar areas or same areas for years, you see what the deer tendencies are and how they react to stuff. So sometimes we'll put a drag guy back there, someone that's going to cover the back door.
Sometimes the deer might want to shoot out the back.
Yeah, they do, and a lot of times your bucks or your more mature deer, they know that's what they want to do. So again, we're just trying to use the experience we have and put people where they need to be more effective when we do put on drives. And we do them ethically. I mean, we try not to, again, there's a thin window. Like you said, you only have a second or two to make that decision. Is that a legal buck? Is that, is the deer the proper deer to put down? It takes a lot of years, a lot of skills in order to perfect that. And there's mistakes made, but our goal is to hunt ethically, and we have a good group of people out there, so I'm blessed.
One of my favorite drives ever down here with you guys was it was the last. This was probably 4 or 5 years ago, something like that. The last drive of the last Saturday afternoon of deer season, and you and Rick Miller and I were the drivers, and there were, I think, 3 or 4 standers, and we were coming along the creek, and you and Rick, I think you had your chest waders on or whatever, because you were in the sloppy stuff, and I was up on the dry on the edge of the slope, and one of the standers moved a little bit, and the deer, instead of running towards them, saw him and ran back towards us, and you were able to shoot it, and it fell in the creek, and it kind of floated down and got hung up on an island. And so I was there watching while you and Rick ran and found a canoe and went and got it. And so that was so cool. That was one of my most memorable deer drives ever.
That was one of mine too. I loved it. I mean, because literally I didn't tag a buck yet that year, and that was the last drive. And it almost cost me my marriage though, because I've been married 30-some years, but since it was the last drive of the day, I committed to my wife to go help her at the restaurant while we had to go and retrieve that deer, like you said, get across French Creek, and an hour later, I was scrambling, jumping in the shower, and putting on a suit and tie to go help her at another facility. But again, to your point, we were trying at that point put out a deer to a gentleman that hasn't yet shot a deer that year, and he was 80 years old, and you just don't know. But again, as a team, we put deer down. We shot a nice buck that year, and that was more meat going to the table, and obviously we were able to contribute to him and his family. So it was nice.
Well, Ken, I appreciate the invitation to come down and talk with you today, and I even more so appreciate the invitation to come and hunt with you guys, because that's a blast. I mean, sometimes maybe you have 6 or 7 guys, sometimes you have 15 guys or whatever, and you guys have places kind of figured out depending on the size of the number of drivers, the number of standers, and all that.
And you say guys, and which what I take most pride in is the fact that we have 4 or 5 women that are in our drives every year. We have all age groups. We have people that are in their 80s down to 14, 15-year-olds that are in our age group. To me, that's the one thing, the one value in our sport, if you want to call it that, is the fact that we could have 3 different generations actively involved in what's taking place. And to me, I just love that. I just love that. So again, we're blessed.
Well, Ken, thanks for being with us today. And since we're talking about deer hunting, we got Chef Lisa working on a venison recipe. I don't know what it is yet, but I'm sure it's going to be great. She always does a great job with that. So stay tuned.
I look forward to it.
Is that something moving up? Yeah, look, there they go! Going towards the road! I just saw one flying down the hill. Do you guys see it? I couldn't tell. I could just see the silhouette of it. Yes.
Joining us now, Chef Lisa Beck. So Lisa, venison, that's a pretty popular thing. I think probably at your house and at my house, and I'm going to say all over Crawford County. That's pretty
right
popular
at the
thing.
moment. Very popular, yes.
So what were you thinking today?
We were thinking chicken fried venison steaks.
Wow.
Yep.
Okay.
So we've got a tenderloin, and we're going to do a couple things to it. We have our cooking oil heating up nice and hot in our cast iron skillet.
Cast iron, that's one of your favorites, right?
It is my ultimate favorite. I love my cast iron. I use it for everything. I like to start meals and then finish them in the oven. So I start them on the stove in the cast iron, and then I move it to the oven, and there's just something about the cast iron. I love it. So, okay, so we have our deer tenderloin.
Now, when you take that thing off the deer, I mean, it's like,
it's long,
maybe 3 feet long or something like that. So what I do is I cut them into like 3 or 4 pieces, depending on how big the deer is. If it's a little bitty one, maybe just 2 or 3 pieces. If it's a big one, maybe 3 or 4 pieces.
Sure.
But you have some nice little steaks there, and so you're thinking to slice those into steaks?
Yeah, I think we're going to slice them, and then we're going to pound them.
Okay.
We're going to put some flour on them, and then we're going to mix together a batter. We'll dip them in the batter, and then we're frying them up.
Can I slice?
Oh, I would love you to slice.
I'm a slicer.
You're the slicer.
Okay.
So we'll have you slice those up first.
So what do you think, like in maybe close to 1 inch, something like that?
I think, yeah, about 1 inch.
About
Do you need a knife?
Yes.
Or I mean a fork.
Okay.
I gave you the knife. Oh, those are beautiful. My favorite, tenderloin.
Mine too, actually. That's kind of like, I've always been a big fan of pheasant hunting, but definitely deer hunting is moving up the list for me here, and it's because of this.
Yes, I know. The eating at the end of the meal of the cooking show. I know, I feel the same way. Yes, we have a couple deer we got this year, so my freezer is no longer empty, which is a really good thing.
Yay.
Because it was really pretty bare bones there for a while, but we're back in business. So all the new recipes start coming out, and
so I'm gonna guess this was like 1.5 pounds or 1.75 pounds or
at
whatever.
least, yeah, it's over 1 pound.
So that's making 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 nice little steaks there.
Yep.
So everybody see that there? Okay. Actually, I could probably cut that one more time too. Okay.
You want to lay them on their sides, and then I'll put some wax paper over them,
Perfect.
dust them with some flour, and then we'll pound them out.
Flour and pounding.
Yes.
Okay.
We have a mallet, and we have flour. And we have tenderloin. Wow, those look great. Those look really good. Okay. All right, whoops.
You know, Lulu thinks this is great too. She's,
Oh, yeah.
she's, I don't think she can see her on the camera, but she's very, very attentive here.
Very attentive. Well, as soon as I took this out of the fridge, she was right there. So we're just gonna pound them out. We'll probably flip them over, put a little bit of dusting of flour on the other side too. This is how you take out all your frustrations. You get really mad, pound out your tenderloin,
Pound out the, yes.
and then
Pound out
everything's
your-
fine. Don't get your fingers.
There's a tenderization that goes along with pounding, right?
Yes.
I mean, that,
Yeah, really. You're breaking down the meat fibers. That's what you're doing. So I tend to tenderize a lot of meat that I cook. I just like it that way.
That part of the deer is just my favorite.
Yeah, me too.
Can you hold that?
Sure.
I think our regular viewers will remember several years ago when we did that just right onto the grill. We did this.
We did, yeah. Oh yeah, that was really
is a-
good. We did that at your house.
Same piece, just a little different approach here.
Right.
This is a great idea here.
I just can't wait till the end product. It's always my
I
favorite.
know, me too. Wonder why that is.
I don't know. Because it's always good.
The guys I go deer hunting with, they were like, I took some copies of the venison, bourbon, bacon, meatball recipe. I thought we were going to fist fight over who's going to get the copies of the recipe.
Whoops.
It was extremely popular.
Yeah, that's a really good one. Do you think I should do them a little more?
That looks pretty
You
good.
think we're pretty good there? I think I'm going to put a new piece of wax paper. Just do it. There's a couple of them that are a little thicker.
Okay.
Just this one right here. And
You're definitely working on those frustrations. Right?
getting those frustrations out.
You even knocked over the back sign.
We've been knocked over the backside. I think that looks good. Okay, so let's make our batter here. We'll get this flour out of the way. So we have 2 cups of flour, and we're going to add to it about 2 teaspoons of pepper,
Okay.
about 2 teaspoons of salt, and a teaspoon of garlic powder. Let me give that a little mix. And then I'm going to add about 1.5 cups of whole milk. I guess you could do buttermilk too.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
That's what you do with chicken a lot of times. So this is just going to make it the batter that we're going to dip these in. And then our oil's been heating. Okay. Time to get messy.
Ooh, yay.
Would you like the tongs?
Yes.
And I'll just get them coated. And then
Is there a little magic way to open these tongs?
push the,
Push that thing in.
Yep.
Got it.
Okay, I'll just set it here and you can take it from there,
Okay. Right in the oil.
right in the oil.
Ooh.
We want to get them good on both sides, sear them, and then they're done. You know, I mean, it doesn't take long. This kind of reminds me of the messy pizza we made when we had it.
Yay.
But that was really good. Like I said,
What could be better than something messy?
that's right. It's usually good when it is messy.
Chicken fried venison
I was
steaks.
just going to say it.
Chicken fried.
I don't know, but this already looks good to me.
Looks like we may have to do this in 2 shifts.
Yeah, that's okay.
Okay.
I can get these done. And we want to give them about, 2 minutes on both sides. Really, I don't think you need much time. They're thin.
Okay.
We pounded them. I'll get these in here, and then I'll get a plate to put those on because you'll need it soon.
That's about 1 minute.
It says sear down. You want to sear it, you know, like a couple minutes on both sides. And then it says to turn it down, but I think what we'll just do is we'll just keep it a little bit longer.
Okay.
And then we'll pull them out because we have these to go in there. It's messy, but a goodie. All right, so I'm gonna wash my hands.
Here's a minute and a half.
Oh, they're cooking up really nice.
All right, coming up on 2 minutes here.
Yep, I'd say a little bit longer.
A little bit more, okay.
Yeah. Don't cook the other ones just
Give them
yet.
extra
You have to gauge it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Just want to make sure that they're starting to crisp up.
For everybody that's concerned about antibiotics and all kinds of stuff in their food that comes from the grocery store, you're not going to have any of this from your deer that comes from the woods,
That's
right?
right.
It's about as organic as it could possibly be.
That is so true. My kids grew up on this. This is this is all they know. I mean, yeah, they've had steak, don't get me wrong, you know, beef, but this is always preference because that's, you know, and a lot of people will say, you know, deer, they think, if you cook it the right way, but I mean, like, this is kind of hard to mess up. A deer tenderloin is very difficult to mess up.
There's 3 minutes. It's just wonderful.
There you go. That's looking good.
Okay.
I think we're gonna like these.
Something about that sizzling and the smell. It's just wonderful.
I know.
A little bit of garlic in there. That's
Yeah,
gotta-
I think it's going to be a really neat recipe. I mean, we all like fried chicken. How can you mess that up,
Yeah, really.
you know?
Chicken fried venison steaks.
I know. This time of year, like I said, experimenting with new recipes, it's always fun.
So when you're driving down the road, don't hit it with your car.
That's right.
Wait till deer season and bring it home.
And then you can make
And then you
this.
can have chicken fried venison steaks.
That's so
Yeah.
true. That's so true.
Turn them over one more time, you think?
Yep. Oh, that looks good.
Look at that.
Boy, I haven't made fried food in a long time. Looking good.
So this was a pretty good year for deer, and I also heard that lots more hunting licenses got sold this year. I think with all the restrictions and everything going on, restricting people outside from hunting, that wasn't happening. So
Right.
a lot of folks that maybe had passed or had used to go, you know, let's get after it again here.
Let's get outside
Yeah.
and let's do something that we can actually do right now, and let's go outside and hunt. That's good to know though, because I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, the numbers were down as far as licenses
They had
the
been
past
going
couple
down,
years.
yes. Yeah.
And you want that population to be, you know, at that norm, because when they become overpopulated, you see more, you know, you know, accidents on the side of the road with deer, and you know that it really does help to maintain, and then, you know, less of a population, less problem the farmers have, keeping them out of their crops and things like that. So
The part that was bothering me the most was hearing that less and less young people were getting out.
and that's a problem.
So, and I'm very pleased to see the numbers going up all the way around.
Right.
Because hunting's a wonderful thing.
It is.
It's great to be outside. I spend all year long trying to stay in shape, And it's not so that I can get some fancy clothes and whatever. It's so that I can be ready for hunting season.
Ready for hunting season.
Because
Yep.
you're not just sitting around all the time.
No,
you're
you're
out there
not.
stomping around. And if you shoot one, you got a lot
gotta
of work to do
drag
to
it.
get it home and to get it all taken care of and to get it to this point.
That's right. And you know, this season we had a couple days where there was a lot of snow. We had like almost 24 inches of snow. And when those guys came home, they were exhausted. Walking through that high snow in the wind and the, you know, blowing in your face, they were exhausted. It is a workout, a major workout. So yeah, I mean, archery, I think archery's a little different, but rifle season, you are moving. You are constantly moving, and it's you have to be in shape. You know, I wouldn't recommend going out there not being in shape because of, goodness gracious, hey dear.
It's like all year long, you know, oh, I'll be okay when hunting season comes along. It's like you need to be keeping fit all year
That's
long
right.
for that.
That's right.
And it's like if hunting's just one of your, you know, 50 habit, you know, things that you
Right.
like to do for fun.
Right.
Well, keep in shape. Yeah,
Sure.
That's,
Sure. But they look like they're almost ready to pull out.
it does. It looks great.
Yeah. Yeah, that's crispy. So I'd say they're almost about ready, especially the ones on this side.
You think another turn might help?
I don't know. I think the tops of
These ones look pretty
yeah,
good.
they do. That's crispy.
Okay.
I bet you could take it out.
Okay.
And then we'll just put them on here to absorb some of the oil there. Yeah, those are crispy. That's perfect.
Look at that.
That looks great. Wow.
You think we tricked somebody into thinking it was like a drumstick or a chicken thigh or something?
Oh, I never trick people, but you
Okay.
know, you could. I'm always honest about it because I wouldn't want to be tricked, but you could. I wouldn't do it, but a lot of times, if you didn't know, you wouldn't know the difference, really, because this is good. This is real, that looks good. Wow.
That.
Yeah,
How about that?
that looks fantastic.
Should I put the second batch in?
Yeah, and then we might even be able to, while it's cooking,
Yay.
try some. I'll get us some little plates.
This wouldn't be nearly as much fun if it wasn't messy. You know, Lisa?
Yeah, I know. You gotta get messy. Good meals come from mess. I've always been a messy cook, but I always clean up when I'm done.
I seem to make a mess all the time.
Little housekeeping there. Should we try what we have?
Yeah.
All right, let's just put that behind us. Set it back there. And I think my helper got us some knives. We need those, please.
Thank you.
Okay. So, you want to just split one for now?
Absolutely.
You think that one's done?
Look at that. Yeah.
Looks good. Oh, I'm losing it. There you go. Whoop, I think we do need the knives. Okay. Chicken fried venison steaks, Dwayne. Oh, that looks really good.
Oh, that is wonderful. Wow.
Oh yeah, another piece.
I think that's a keeper.
That is a keeper.
Don't want to lose that crust.
It's really different. I like it.
That was super.
We did it again, Dwayne.
How about that? So that's one that isn't really complicated.
No.
Does not take a long time. And it gives you another motivation to bring home a nice deer.
Absolutely. Always a good thing. Always a good thing.
Well, Lisa, let me turn this here.
All right.
I think we're about ready for our first turn. Oh, getting crispy.
Yep, they are. Definitely warm enough in there.
This is kind of fun.
Yeah. I never deep fry, so this is a delicacy for me. Love my deer tenderloin.
Oh, me too.
Always good. This is great.
Wow.
Very good.
Well, Lisa, thank you for the wonderful
You're welcome.
fried venison, chicken fried
Chicken fried.
venison steaks.
Yeah.
Thank you to the folks at home for joining us today on Crawford County Outdoors. And get out there, bring home a deer, and we'll talk to you next time.